Remember this? We made this mold a long time ago, like weeks ago. And at the time, I had bought some Alumilite clear epoxy resin, thinking that I could use it for this, but it's completely the wrong resin. It's good stuff, but it was the wrong resin. So I went out and I ordered some rotocastable resin, some clear urethane resin. Took forever to get it in. I think it was all the Christmas mail, this, whatever. But anyway, it just took forever to get it in. Couldn't get it in at all until recently, but we finally did. So now we're ready to take this mold, make a cradle for it, mount it on the rotational molding machine, and spin it and see if we can't make a hollow, clear casting out of epoxy resin. I think it's going to be a really interesting experiment. Have no idea if it's going to work. Let's find out. Let's get started on this cradle, and what I did was I glued up some old scrounged laminate flooring, and we're going to use it to build our cradle because it's the perfect size. Took the measurements that I need. I'm going to see if I can set a world record for simplicity in cradle design. This is going to be about as, I hope, this will be as simple and easy to build and will work like a champ. And what I'm going to do is take advantage of the rim, the edge around the rim of each cup. And that's going to be the thing that's going to hold the whole thing together. So the really critical thing is this hole in the middle, which is 4 5/16, which you'll watch me cut out, it's got to fit those cups perfectly, because if it doesn't fit, you don't want it sliding around and you don't want it distorting the cup. So let's mark out what we got going on here. So let's just use the square here to mark out one edge. Let's check. I'm going to need an 18-inch piece. Should have plenty. I don't have plenty, but I have enough. All right. So let's mark out this first edge like that. So let's see, and we need it to be 7 inches going this way. So let's mark out 7 inches. 7 inches that way. 7 inches this way. And I want the hole, I want this hole to be centered in the middle. So the middle is going to be at 9 inches. 9 inches from there, 9 inches from there, double check that. So the hole is going to be in the middle there. Beautiful. All right, and we want to find the center going this way, which is 3.5 inches. 1, 2, 3.5, check it. 1, 2, 3.5. Found the center, which we know is right there. Now let's lay this out. We want this to be 4 5/16, which means 2 1/8, 2 1/8, and a tiny amount. 2 1/8 is a quarter, and a tiny amount. It's right about there. So let's see what that looks like. Make a mark. Come around and make a nice sharp mark in the center. Let's see how close I am. This does have to be accurate, because we don't want this to slip and slide. Boy, it's super close. Yeah, okay, good. All right, so let's mark that out. Here we go. I'm going to cut on the outside of this line just barely. That's not the prettiest marking job I ever did, that's for sure, but it is accurate. So that's giving me just right. Okay. I really believe that this is all we're going to need. This cup is going to sit down in there. It's going to attach. I'll show you how that's going to work. Let's go cut some wood. Now for the acid test. Does it fit? Well, let's find out. Oh, look at that. Perfect fit. Excellent. Perfect fit. Nice. Here, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's set this in another one, and that will that work? Will that help any? Yeah, a little bit. Okay. All right. So now we have that. Then this is going to go on here like that. And theoretically, that should hold everything together. Now, to attach these rims to this cradle, where's the parts at? Here they are. I made off camera because it was so unbelievably noisy. The construction's just raging outside. So I just quick as I could, I just made these little cleats. You see these cute little cleats? They are just going to go like this, and they're going to hold that on there like that. And it's just 4 screws. It's going to hold the whole thing together like that. And that should work out just perfect. All right, let's pick this up, bring it over to the machine, and let's see how I want to do this. This thing I think needs to be up over on here like this. Like this. So we're going to set her on there like that. And let's line up the marks on the end there. Can you guys see the mark? See how clever I was to put a mark there to get it all lined up right? Very good. Let's get some bolts in. Quick, quick, quick. Bolt number 1. Now, I make the bolts pretty long. Notice the bolt doesn't really fit. And the reason for that is a long bolt, it's not so long that it's going to hurt anything, but it's long enough to fit in a variety of cradle designs. So that's actually pretty handy. Let's center this side up, get it lined up just like that. Bolt on this side. Get the washer going. And they don't have to even be super tightened. They can just be somewhat tightened. Really, they're basically finger tight. I'm wrenching it, but I'm holding the other side with my finger. So they're not super tight. One of the things I really like about rotation is the forces involved in rotational molding just aren't that great, aren't that tremendous. So now we can set this into place like this. And what we will have to do when we get ready to pour, I'm just going to do a rough assembly now, but we're going to get that so that lines up, so the mold lines close up really nice and tight. Get it in there right and straight. Everything perfect. And we drop this cap on like that. And then that, whoo, should hold on. Now, one thing you can do to make life easier on yourself is you can take a clamp. It wants to go this way, so let's put a clamp over here and stop it from doing that. Okay, so we put a clamp over there, put a clamp over here, same drill, and all that really does is stop it from running away on us. Keep it under control. Okay, now, here's number 1. So what we're going to do is going to put that in place. Get out our drill. I'm going to drill all the way through like that. And that is how we're going to attach these. They're not identical, these cleats. That's why I numbered them, so that I don't mix them up after I take them off a few times. My fingers are not behind where the drill is going to come through. Okay. This is going to be more than adequate. to hold these on here, I think. He says laughing, watch, it won't be. The whole thing go flying apart on me. I drew the outline of them just so you could always relocate them easily where they go. You can find the hole you just drilled easy. Nice and simple. Okay, now that can't go anywhere, I don't think. Could it go flying out the other side? I don't think so. All right, one more to do, and we have secured the thing to the cradle. Well, I'll take a look and see how this thing is balancing. Get the tools out of the way. All right, so it's very much hanging down. It's very much heavy on this side of the mold. So what we'll want to do is we're going to want to put some C-clamps on the other side of the mold. Let's grab a couple C-clamps off the board here, see what it's going to take to balance this mold. Let's put one over here. See if this is going to work. Now these might be too close to the edge. I'm not sure. Oh, no, I just make it. Okay. Okay, so now how did that balance that? It's still pretty much heavy on this side. So let's put this on over here. See what this does. But this is how you can balance your machine with a couple of clamps. You just put weight on the other side of the machine. Now that's not good. We can't have that. We gotta have that across like that. Okay, now what about one more? It's still out of balance on that side. Sometimes being out of balance doesn't hurt you because, as you can see, you can use the out of balance to force spinning. And it's spinning pretty nice now. Let's just for fun put one more clamp. I'm going to put it more in the middle. See what happens. A little more in here. You can keep putting on clamps all day long, but at some point you're going to not. Yeah, we're really close to being in balance. I made some modifications to the machine. Basically, I just flipped the whole arrangement of the mold on the machine over. So it's upside down from the way I had put it in earlier. And the reason for that is I cut down this cup. What I discovered was that this cup isn't the same cup, this remnant of a cup isn't the same cup that I made the mold with. And they're just different enough that this cup ring was not holding the mold closed. So what I did was I had to put a rubber band, I don't know if you could see that, but there's a rubber band around there. And it's doing a really beautiful job of holding the mold closed. So that was good, that was needed. But that meant, and the other good thing about it was that because I did it that way, let's drop this in here, fits like a champ. Because I cut down the cup, I have really easy access to the fill hole, which is great because that's very helpful. And my cleats just come right in. So let's get this thing installed. I also played around some with the arrangement and placement of the clamps. You see they're in a different place than they were earlier. I didn't like them out at the edge. I liked them better more in the center of the weight. So let's get this thing locked on. When I bought the urethane resin from my supplier and asked him if I could rotocast this particular clear resin, he said yes, but he also recommended that I heat the resin to 100 degrees. And that's easily done at home where I have my fancy refrigerator hot box. But here I don't have a hot box, so I had to rig one up. So I scrounged this beautiful refrigerator chest freezer box, which was perfect heavy-duty box, cut a hole in it, and then just borrowed a space heater to blast the hot air in there. Let's see how it's doing. I need 100 degrees. And what have I got? Oh, look at that, 100 degrees. It holds 100 degrees amazingly well. So inside, this is a very fancy lid. Take the wood off, and let's take a look inside. You know what we got? Here's my mold, and here's the resin heating up, and it is nice and warm in there. So that's how I'm going to heat the resin, working like a champ. You don't need fancy gear. You don't need, to spend a ton of money to accomplish what you need to do when you're making your molds. I set up my scale here on the table because we have to determine how much resin are we going to weigh out to make this part. Remember, we're trying to make this snow globe. I love the reflection of my umbrella in there. It looks so cool. Anyway, yeah, we need to know how much resin we're going to need, and I figure what better way than to just use the existing casting. I think that we're going to wind up with thicker walls than this. This was probably blow molded or injection molded in some way. So I'm going to weigh this. We're going to allow for cup and stick waste. We're going to allow just for thicker walls in the thing. So let's go ahead and weigh that. I got the scale tared to 0. Let's see what that weighs. 10 grams, 20 grams, 30 grams. Feels like it's beyond 30. Wow, not very much. Boy, it's light. Pulling down the scales to 32.5 grams. Okay, we are ready to pour some resin. Let's do it. All right, resin's in. Let's get the cap in. Beautiful. All right, got the cap in. Let's get ready to spin this kid. Take this brake off over here. I think we're all set. Check it, check it. All right, let's spin her. Oh, my favorite thing in the world is to spin a mold. Let's spin the mold. Right. Now I looked up on the material data sheet the set time on this kid, and wow, it's it's pretty long. It's 15 minutes is the working time. So I'm going to have to spin this a while. Now, my theory is this. It's hot in there. We heated this resin to 100 degrees, and we heated the mold to 100 degrees. My guess is that I'm not going to have to spin it for the full 15 minutes because I think it's going to cure a lot faster at 100 degrees than it would at room temperature, 75, 80 degrees. So I think I'm probably in for a 5, maybe 10-minute spin. Maybe less, I'm not sure. I'm going to keep an eye on my witness cup, see what we have to see. But I'm just going to do this for as long as it takes to cure this resin. And once it's cured, I'll come back to you and we'll pull this thing apart and see what we get. All right, it's excitement time. This is payoff time. I'm nervous now. Oh, shoot, let me go grab my drill. I need the drill, need the drill. Let's pull this thing apart. You know what, if I was smart, I'd lock it, huh? If I had a brain in my head, I'd lock the thing so I wouldn't have to fuss with the rotator. Let's do that. Let's lock the rotator for a minute. Okay, put the lock on over there. Where's my stick at? I'm just not prepared, am I? Don't need it. Here, let's just do it this way. Let's lock the rotation on this side as well, so it's easier to handle. Cool, okay. Let's get this thing apart. I am super excited to see this thing. I have no idea if this is gonna work. Here we go. Man, I have no idea if this is gonna be a complete disaster and we're gonna have to fuss for days to get this to work, or if we're gonna have something good coming right out of it. Who knows? It's an experiment. I'm out of my element. I don't cast a lot of clear resin in my world. So let's take the thing apart, pop the thing off. Boy, I tell you what, you know, the parting line, I was a little, uh-oh, that's bad. Look what I found. I got some serious bucklage in here. I wonder what caused that. I wonder if that's a oh, I bet I know what caused it. I'll bet you money I know what did that. Rats. I see a flaw in my system. I'm going to say that this bucklage here was caused entirely by the fact that it was hot. And as it cooled off, as the mold cooled off, it collapsed. It collapsed inward. I know how to fix that. I think I know how to fix it. But so I think we're going to have a flawed casting. Let's see how badly flawed our casting is. All right. Well, you know what? When you're fooling around and experimenting, you know what you're going to get. Come on out of there. Wow. Oh no. Well, all right. That was not a success. That was a flop. All right, so let's analyze our floppage. Okay. Problem number one. When the mold cooled, it shrank. The air inside, the volume of the air went down, and that was not good. So, yeah. It collapsed inward. That's number one. Number two, I got a pretty wicked holiday, which tells me I did not have enough resin in this mold to successfully get resin everywhere. I'm also wondering if that was just a problem of the rotation pattern. So that's something I got to think about. And the final flaw that you can't see, because they're really hard to see, is there are teeny, tiny little bubbles inside the casting. It's not perfectly clear. There's some bubbles in there. So, and I let this sit for an hour, and it's leather hard. It's not rock hard. And most of the resin looks like it's down in this end. All right, we're going to call that a massive failure. Whatever. And we got to figure out if we can fix it and if we can get a successful casting. Who knows if we can? So how are we going to fix this thing? That is the question, and I think I know what to do. First of all, what I did was I rebalanced this machine. Let me take off this brake. I rebalanced this machine once again. The mold is not in it. The mold is in the hot box. We will put it in there. But I moved the cradle in the frame, and I repositioned the clamps, and I think it gives me much better balance. So this is what the problems were. The problem was I didn't have enough resin down in the bottom, down in the dome itself. The balance of the mold favored the base, which we don't care that much about the base. This thick part of the base isn't even supposed to be there. I was going to machine that out. So we don't need this. That's a nice thick thing of plastic we don't need. That's one problem. And then, of course, look, it's completely, it completely starved the things to the point where we got a massive hole in the side, and this is very thin. If this was integral and nice and round, it'd probably be pretty hard, but this is pretty thin. We need more resin. So we're going to put more resin in. We're going to orient the pour so that the pour stays more down. Now, this is one of the huge advantages of manual rotation. This is what I'm talking about when I tell you, you don't just want willy-nilly random rotation with a couple of machines, throw a switch and go away. It's not what you want. The reason for that, and I'll explain it when everything's on here, is I'm going to rotate this thing in such a way that the hole, the plug hole, this is the other problem. Let me remind you of this. The thing shrank as it cooled. The mold, we started with a 100-degree mold. That meant that the air inside was 100 degrees, the rubber was 100 degrees, the resin was 100 degrees. As we made this casting, it cooled down. It's probably not much more than 75 degrees in this little room of mine. So it cooled down 25 degrees, the air shrank, the hole was plugged, with resin, the inlet hole, so it collapsed inward. That's why we got this funky dunky bumpage all over the place. So what do we have to do? We have to leave the hole open. We got it, so we're gonna pour this thing without a plug. It's gonna be magnificent. We're literally gonna pour it in such a way that the resin never runs back out of the plug. That's gonna starve the bottom surface, which is fine with me, and it's gonna make sure that all of the resin stays from the base edge, from this front base edge, down into here. And if it's a little thicker down in the base, that's good, because this is too weak and it got a giant hole. It's not gonna work. So that's the process. That's what we're gonna do. More resin, orient the thing correctly, and make sure that we let air into the mold as it cools so that it can cool, but it won't shrink. It won't collapse as the air loses volume. Make sense to everybody? Let's do it. Okay, the scale is tared. Let's go. Let's do a 50. God, what do I want to do? You know, I'm going to mix a 60 gram. So let's mix a 60 gram batch. Dump 20. Dump 27. Okay, we're at 27. Up it comes. Right there, it's going to settle right in. Perfect. Let's go 45. Dump to 45. Okay. Dump to 55. There's 55. 58. So we're very close now. I like to sneak up like that. And we are right on in a 50-50 batch, 60 grams. Okay, quite a bit more than we used the first one. I did not think we had enough resin in the first one. All right, and now check out this handy dandy little paddle. See that thing? I found these bamboo paddle stirrers. Love it. So let's stir the resin. And while we stir, let's take the camera and, okay, movement time. Okay, so now one of the problems that we had was bubbles. Boy, it doesn't look like there's a lot of little bubbles in there, but there are bubbles in there. So it's enough mixing. Let's de-air this material. In the tank it goes. Close that off. Close this off. Now I don't know if this is going to want to blow over or not. Let's look at it. I'll bring you along for the ride. See what we can see. Can we even see down in there? Oh yeah, it's pulling a vacuum. Let's see. See if it rises. How about that? How's that? Very, very little action so far. A long wait for not too much so far. I'm going to assume that that's going to de-air that, take those bubbles out of that resin, but so far we haven't seen any action at all. Very minor foamage. Let's go ahead and put this in place. Drop this into its mold beautifully. Drop it in. Make sure that it's all perfect. Okay. Parting line is not bad. Let's put our cleats in place. Get the cleats going. Once again. Still hear the vacuum pump going in the background. I've still got that resin de-airing. No idea if that's going to work, but we're going to hope so. Okay. Feels like those are all tight. Tight, tight, tight. Those are ready to go. Let's go get the resin. Okay, this resin is really, really, really warm, but it's still really liquidy. So let's pour it. It's not just warm because it's gelling, it's warm because it's very liquidy. We're still good. Let's pour it quick. Let's pour it quick. Have no idea if this is going to work. Feels like the resin is quite syrupy. I think it's really syrupy. I don't know if this is going to work at all, kids. No idea if this is going to work at all. It looks like it's running. It looks like it's running. Let's see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to control the resin so none of it can come running out of the hole. And I'm just going to do this for quite a while, spinning. It's warm. In fact, it's downright hot. And how much it will move around, I do not know. How much it's possible that I took too much time to get it into the mold. And the next pour will get it right, but we'll see. I just love working with resin that I don't know, never used before. This is how you gain experience. I'll tell you, many of you are probably having this experience where you're making molds and they're not coming out right. They're just not. They're not working. Guess what? Everybody goes through this process, a learning process. You got to learn your materials. You got to learn how your molds work. It's a really steep learning curve, this little hobby of ours, or profession, depending on what you're doing. Yeah, it's difficult. I'm just hoping that I'm going to be able to roll it around enough. It's gelled enough that it's not just dripping out of the hole. You can see that nothing's dripping. I felt like when it went in, it was hot. It was syrupy. It was not watery when it went into the mold. It was syrupy. So I'm feeling less than confident about total coverage on the inside. Let's see what our witness cup is saying to us. Yeah, the witness cup material is sagging, but it's not running. But it's sagging. Ow, it's sagging. Don't get your thumb jammed into the nut there. Let me look at it, see if I can see it. Yeah, no, it's still sagging, but it's quite gel. It's not going to move much. I can spin it without any fear that anything's going to drop out of the hole. So the question is, did we get enough coverage when I first put it in or not? If the answer is no, we're not going to have a complete casting. If the answer is yes, we might. Who knows? Next time, what I will do is if I do another pour, another try at this. We'll do it where I have less time from the mixing time to the time I put it into the mold. But I'll tell you, it went into the mold hot. The mold itself is still quite warm. There's no chance that there's going to be any weird mold shrinkage because it's open. The vent hole is completely open in the middle, so it's not collapsing. I think I've done enough spinning in front of you guys. Let me turn the cameras off, keep spinning, wait for it to cure, and we'll come back for the big reveal. Okay, damas y caballeros, we're ready to look at casting number 2. There's a forest of tractors and trucks right outside that garage door doing their tractor and truck thing, so excuse the noise if you can hear it. Let's pop this thing out of here. I already loosened the cleats. Let's get this thing out of here. Now, it's been in this mold for about an hour. I think it's pretty much ready to go. Beautiful. So it feels pretty hard. I do have a little witness chunk that I pulled out of the bung hole. It feels pretty hard, although it's leathery. It's still flexible. So we're gonna risk it. We're gonna take this thing apart. It's been in here about an hour. Let's see if we see anything just immediately bad. Mold looks okay. That's not good. All right, away. I feel a soft spot right there, which tells me there's a holiday. That feels nice and hard, but this is very suspicious. There should not be a soft spot. It should be uniformly hard. That tells me what I suspect might have happened, and that is that we didn't get a full fill. So let's see. Let's take this thing apart. Oh yeah, okay. Alrighty, yeah, this one's even worse than the first one. Wow, wowee, what a mess. What a mess. Okay, it's obvious what happened here. I thought that this might have been what was going to happen here. First of all, I de-aired this plastic. and there's tons of little bubbles in it. That's a problem. I'm not sure how I'm going to get those bubbles out of there. I probably entrained those bubbles when I poured it, but holy moly, 2 complete flops in a row. If anything, this one's better than this one's. Okay, so let's analyze. Too much time between when I mixed the resin, put it in the vacuum chamber, let it vac for quite a while, and it didn't foam rapidly. I mean, it hardly pulled the bubbles out, which tells me that the vacuum was really struggling to get the bubbles out. By the time I got it out of the chamber and started to pour it, obviously it was just too thick, and it started to rotate around, but it gelled. This has got all the earmarks of resin that is gelled. Ironically, if it was not clear resin, if it was just regular resin, this would look pretty good because the outer shell's pretty smooth. The mess is all on the inside. This is the problem with rotational molding. And you know, this may happen no matter what we do. I got to get this so you can see it. But let me see if I can get this light up here so in place so that you guys can see it, see the problem up close. Does that show? See how much distortion and how much bending of light there is and all like that? Well, the reason for that is that it's the inner walls, it's the inner surface that are wrinkly and a mess. And that's the problem with rotational molding. You only control the outside wall. You don't control the inside wall. So this is a catastrophic failure. My resin supplier told me that he had customers that were successfully rotocasting this, so I know it can be done. I've just never done it. And obviously I haven't worked out the techniques yet to make it happen. So we're going to have to put some more thought and some more work and some more effort into this. But we are out of time for this week. It is late Wednesday, so all I can tell you is to be continued. I don't give up. I keep trying, but I got to think about how I'm going to fix this and what techniques and what methods and what procedures I'm going to use to get a successful casting. Thanks for watching. I hope you had fun anyway. I told you, I warned you that we were going to have failures on this channel. If we don't have failures, we don't learn anything. This is a failure. I will see you next week.